All right, let's do this. Let's do this little exercise. We can go around. I would say there are 4 prospects that are doing well or have some sort of a chance, we'll say, to make the team. If you had to keep 2, you put 2 on the opening day roster out of Cowser, Kjerstad, Mayo, and Holliday. Who are your 2?
Jesus Christ. Who are the 2 I'm keeping?
Yeah, well, I mean, all of them you're keeping, but who makes the opening day roster?
Ugh.
So why don't, Zach, since we can all think about it, why don't you start?
I would, right now, I think it would have to be Cowser and Holliday. As much as I want Mayo to be on the team, I think it's going to be hard for him to find a spot and consistent at bats. And I think it's easier for them to put Holliday at second and let him take that over and have his ups and downs there. And then I think Cowser has won that last outfield spot just by the way he's playing. All right, Kevin.
Yeah, I agree. I think those 2. I mean, Mayo's playing unreal baseball right now, but I mean, Holliday, you put him at, like Zach said, you put him at second, you just let it rock, and I think he figures it out as the season goes on. Not that he, is struggling right now. He's obviously on fire, but the fact that he is on fire, you just put him up, you keep him up, you start him, you leave him there, and then I agree with Cowser. You can't send somebody who's playing like that down right now, and so I think that even though Mayo's awesome, and I think he's really earned a spot, you can only have so many players, and there's only so many spots on the final roster, and it just comes down to a numbers game, at least for this situation.
Brad, what you got?
Colton Cowser has to be the obvious one with a 1620 OPS.
Yeah.
How do you ignore that?
He's been the best hitter in the entire spring, not just for the Orioles, just in the entire spring training between the cactus and the grapefruit.
But if you had to guess what Coby Mayo's was, what do you think? What would you say it was?
I'm saying it's probably close. I think Coby consistently, I'd say he's probably 13 or 1400.
Yeah, I'd say probably 14.
It's at 1013. So I'm actually, nobody wants no unpopular opinion. I'm going to start Colton and I'm going to start Coby Mayo on opening day.
So you would leave Jackson?
I would leave Jackson Holliday down.
Interesting.
If I had 2.
Yeah.
If I had 2. I mean,
so are you putting Westberg, I'm guessing, at second?
Yeah. Yep. Westberg second. And, I just, when we're looking at OPS, and I'm just going off OPS specifically, right? So like, and Coby Mayo is just tearing the cover off the ball. The way that he just continues to just mash. And we saw that late last year too. I don't know. Just feel like it would be interesting to see those big bats up there. Not that Jackson Holliday hasn't proven himself with his bat either, but like, I don't know.
So
I think I'll put those 2 up there. It's tough. I do not envy Michael Eyes right now.
You're literally picking between 4 top 20 prospects.
Yeah. Like, what do you do?
It's what do you do? That is
why question. They pay Mike Elias a lot of money to make these decisions.
The answer, I guess, I should give my 2. I think Cowser there's nothing right now that you would feel that he wouldn't be the 4th outfielder for the team. And that's even with how strongly I feel about Heston Kjerstad. And I love Kjerstad too. But the point that I was trying to make with guys is that all those players having great springs are going to go out there and ball out during the regular season. But the point that I try to bring up, guys that are already in the bigs and guys that are trying to make the team, it's 2 different dynamics. And is that going to carry over? Because it is a small sample size.
Yes.
But all they can do is hit as well as they are, right? That's, if you're asking any of these guys, and if the Orioles, when they make these decisions, because they're not going to have everyone up, they're going to go, you've done everything possible. It just keep doing you. And at some point, you will have your opportunity in Baltimore. But I do think Cowser is on a redemption tour this year. I think that he feels more confident. Now, the thing is he going to get comfortable with those, hopefully getting everyday at bats, and or though, if he's not, how do you combat that? How do you stay fresh for the season? I think
something that's important to discuss is every time Colton Cowser has gotten to a next level, it's pretty much been the exact same story. He gets to a new level, he struggles. Everyone does oh man, did Colton Cowser meet his match? Is this where it goes? And then after a few weeks, he absolutely takes off. It gets comfortable and takes over whatever level he is by storm and starts hitting 320, hitting bombs, getting RBIs. And I think last year we just saw him get to the majors and he did his usual. He struggled when he wasn't comfortable. And now this year, it seems he's more comfortable at the plate. You see, I know there was a little tweak, I think, in his swing, his hand placement, and something that small. He's got confidence. And when he's swinging a confident bat, people forget something I want to point out. Colton Cowser has Heston Kjerstad's strength. This is a guy that can hit the cover off of the baseball. Now, I know Heston Kjerstad is known for his insanely long home runs and just those monster shots, but Colton Cowser is going to be up here, and he has 25, 30 home run potential.
Here's what I also say to this, just kind of further support what I'm saying. 40% of Jackson Holliday's at bats in spring training are strikeouts.
Yeah, that makes sense.
40%. So I mean, and from a defensive standpoint, it just kind of seems like an easier way to set this lineup with Coby at third base. You put Gunnar at short, Jorge Mateo, who's also having a decent spring training, at second. That way you're not trying to figure out.
Well, I think they put Westberg at second.
Or Westberg, yeah. Either one of them.
Westberg.
Either one of them.
Because I think they have to have Westberg in there almost every day because you don't want to ruin his development. I think he's going to take a big step this year. That's why it's so hard, because it is, do you want Westberg to get comfortable at third so you have Holliday at second? Are you okay with him being at second and you bring up a Coby Mayo? So it is going to be interesting to see what they do. I also think, if Jackson is on the team, how often do we see him play elsewhere than second? Do we see Gunnar go to third and Jackson get time at short in certain games? I think that opens up there's so much inner conversation inside this bigger conversation.
Only Holliday and Westberg have double-digit strikeouts this spring training.
Yeah, I mean, and again, you're right. It is a sample size, but I think if people are going to knock for being a young player, is when it's going to be more magnified during the season.
That's what I'm trying to say.
But if you hit 320 or 300, but again, also this is why it's a sample size. They're all capable of it, but look how many hitters hit over 300 in the big leagues, and look how many hitters hit over 300 on the Baltimore Orioles this past season.
Yep.
Right? Like, this is all exciting, but there's so many more that goes in. There's so much more that goes into this conversation. I did not have Jackson Holliday being on opening day to start the year or to start spring training. I still didn't think it after a week, but man, if he continues to just get hits down the stretch, I think that he's got a legit shot to be on the team now, because I think that he's forcing the hand. But if he's not going to start every day, I think it's going to be a waste of time. Coby Mayo is so intriguing to me because they're not saying it initially, but can Coby play third? And I think he notices that. He's mentioned that, they talk about his defense because he's a big dude. Believe me, he's keeping tracks of that. He's like, you don't think I can play the position? Well, I'm going to try to prove to you. But the big thing for me is, as long as Ramon Urias is on the team as well, where does that fit in? And I think people are not going to Urias because Urias knows his damn role. I'm a utility guy. I can be ready to play when called upon. And that's very hard role to be in. You have to be okay with that. The young players, that's a lot of responsibility. Coby Mayo is not going to be a utility guy. It's going to be playing third, going to be playing first, maybe outfield. But right now, you still have Ryan O'Hearn and Ryan Mountcastle and Anthony Santander that are going to play first base.
It's just such a deep team.
Yeah, I know, man.
I don't think it's a question of Coby Mayo's. I think it's more his agility at third, how well he can cover, because Coby Mayo has a cannon.
Big dude,
for
big arm. Yeah.
A cannon.
Super strong arm. And also Jason was down there, and Cowser looks incredibly ready in person. Take it from a Cowser truther.
Massive Cowser truther.
He is. And for Cowser, talent has never been his issue. That for him, with a lot of the other younger players, it is when your opportunity presents itself moving forward, can you adapt? Because if you can't adapt in the second or third time, people are going to look at you differently. Like Kyle Stowers, I think he's got so much talent, but you can tell he's not one of their first or second options for the team right now. And Kyle Stowers has done a lot of tremendous things, but that's just the reality that we're dealing with.
If you're a manager, right? Like, I would imagine you want more consistency than anything with your players at specific positions. And I know that, Ryan, you've been a huge guy on Gunnar just staying at short and not going anywhere else. And he's been bouncing back and forth. And like, there's always been this thing about Gunnar going to third and maybe eventually moving Jackson Holliday to short because that's his natural position. So like, what do you do when you have so much depth here? Like, there's plenty of guys that could probably go out on any major league team and start opening day. But so then what do you do once they get to a point to where they develop and they're just sitting around? They're kind of, it's almost kind of feels like they're wasting talent, right? Like, so then is that when you start throwing out trades or like what happens, you know?
I think the Orioles are going to have to be more aggressive here. I think that these guys that have been on this cusp for a while,
it's almost like we're too deep.
Right. But that's a good problem because then you can then go out there and be more aggressive. I think this is kind of what the Orioles were going to do moving forward. I think everyone's going, well, they haven't done it yet. It's like, well, no, you just made a huge deal getting Corbin Burns. But the year prior to that in 2023, you weren't expecting to be where you were. No one expected you. And not that the team didn't think that they can go out and make the playoffs, but they were the best team in the American League. Like, that's how good they were. And then in 2022, you went from being projected to be one of the worst teams in baseball to on the final week of the season being in playoff contention. So, and during this whole time, you're figuring out this layer of players, of who's around and what's going to be their answer. And if there's potential fits then for you to go and trade those guys for value. So like my point, Joey Ortiz, value so high. DL Hall, value still very high. You wanted an ace. You went and got it. Like, that made perfect sense. So I think you're right. There's going to be moves that they're going to have to make. And the other part of it, and this isn't necessarily fun for the players, but injuries happen a lot.
Yeah.
And you have to have guys you feel like can go up and play. So the Orioles are definitely thinking about that. It's that balance of, do we want to have the depth that if we have a catastrophic injury, like last year when the Yankees lost Aaron Judge, one of the best players, you can't replace him. You can look at that moment and go, well, that lineup's in trouble. That team's in trouble. And they were.
Yeah.
For the Orioles, I think that's why they're having so much success why they will, is because if something happens, they do have the pieces. There isn't too much of a disparity. But you're right. At some point, their value is going to drop if they aren't being pushed at the major league level, and or if their roles are no longer to be starting or star players, they become more of, are you just part of the roster bench, but not considered to be an everyday guy?
Yeah.
And that's what I think people are trying to figure out. What is Kyle Stowers going to be?
Mm-hmm.
What is
Heston Kjerstad?
What is Heston Kjerstad going to be? What is Colton Cowser going to be? But for the time being, they all look like guys with high potential.